Without further ado, I'm introducing Geir. He is Head of Development and member of the EMREX Executive Committee, and he'll be sharing with us. I have some more information on his background. And I will be moderating the session. I'm the project consulting lead for EMREX. And Matt, whose voice you heard earlier, is supporting us by moderating the chat boxes, and you'll see him wade in every now and then to give us input. For Geir, he has decades of experience in developing systems in higher ed. He's head of development and he participates. We met, all of us, through the international Groningen work. And he sits on a number of committees and has led a number of projects. He's also a member of the EMREX Executive Committee, as I said earlier. And he participates in a number of projects such as the Erasmus Plus project. And as a reminder, and I'll remind you again at the end, on July 5th, we have a session with Valérie Muse on the Erasmus Without Papers project, which is a study abroad model. So in advance of today, Geir kindly provided us with a one-pager on EMREX, which is linked onto our session website that I sent you yesterday as a takeaway. But he's also kindly agreed to give us a bit of an overview of the project so that we have an understanding of it. And welcome, Geir.
Thank you, Joanne.
So I'm going to give you over the share so that you can share your screen.
Okay.
If people bear with us a moment just while we do this.
Do you see my sheet screen now?
We do, yes.
I try to make it a bit. There you are.
Perfect. Yeah. We can see it. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I'm very happy to be with you today. I think I will use about 20 minutes on this presentation, and maybe we could take questions afterwards. And I hope my sound is okay, my mic is okay.
Yes, we can hear you very well, Geir.
Great. Normally, I'm situated in Oslo, in Norway, in an organization called UNIT. So it's a body, governmental body in Norway dealing with digitalization for higher education. So we are providing services for higher education, like student information systems, research information systems, and the national admission systems. The EMREX project was originally a Erasmus Plus project from European Commission, or financed partly by the European Commission as the Erasmus Plus project. Erasmus Plus is the largest student exchange network in the world. There has been several million students on exchanged via this network. And in Europe, we also have something called Connecting Europe Facility, which is dealing with energy, telecom, and transport. So we are also connected to this telecom part of CEF. And as you know, we have these new legislations on the GDPR, which we have to take care of, and I can say that EMREX is a GDPR compliant network. And we also have something called EIDAS to deal with electronic identity throughout Europe, and also electronic signatures. So what is EMREX? EMREX is a standard on how to connect to student data depositories. And this is about student results, like qualifications, transcript of record, diplomas, diploma supplement. So it's a general solutions to enable students or former students to control their own data, let them access their data, and let them share their data with whoever they want to share it with. The network is open, and it's up to the result owner, that is the student or former student, to give access to the data. When we look at the architecture of EMREX, it's almost all parts of the architecture is local to a country or to a university. So we have something called the national contact point, which is diploma registries or local registries. That can be local to universities or local to a part of a country. So it's this is different in different countries. So the national contact point is the part of the network delivering data to the student. Then we have something called the EMREX client, which is any application in need of resource data, which includes what we call a student mobility plugin. So that is a piece of open software with EMREX client functionality. So this open software enables you to connect to the network and retrieve data from the network based on the acceptance of the student or former students. And at last, we have something called EMREX, which is a registry of NCPs. So all the security in the network is based on this registry. And that is the only part of the network not local to a country. We have one registry.
Sorry, how many registries do you have, Geir?
Only one registry.
Okay.
And that is the list of all the contact points in the network delivering data.
So almost like an advanced phone book, right?
Yes, that's correct. So if you are an EMREX client, you have to look into this phone book to see which countries are in and where should I send the student to retrieve data back to the client.
Right, and it explains what data you need. They have capacity to send, right?
The data is quite standardized. So we are talking about resource data and qualification, etc. So
okay.
I think I go further on. The most important thing in EMREX is the format. It's called ELMO. It's a general format, and it's building on a standard model of diploma, diploma supplement, transcript of record. And this model also refers to a model of description of learner opportunities. That means that if you have a resource for a course, you can also deliver the description of the course. If you have obtain a qualification, you can also deliver the description of this qualification. And this model also includes diploma supplement information. So this is more than a traditional diploma or diploma supplement or transcript of records. There are additional data in this. The ELMO format is very generic, so it's not trying to describe one country's education. As you see from the terms in this format, we are talking about learners, issuers, learning opportunity specifications, instances. That is normally terms you are not using in daily lives. So, and the case here is to enable each country to describe their resources, their qualifications. So this has been used in many European countries, both on upper secondary school level and also on higher education level. And the educational systems in Europe are very different from country to country. The format is also multi-language, so you can describe the information in the same XML file in different languages. I do a short demo. It's part of the process. This is about a student, a Finnish student, has been to University of Oslo, studying one semester, come back to Finland and want to retrieve the data from University of Oslo to Finland. So the first thing this student does is to log on to the system, the EMREX client in Finland. It could be a University of Helsinki, for instance. So you log on to this client, and part of this client, this could be a recognition system or an admission system. Part of this is to obtain data from EMREX. And the first you will do is to choose which country do you want to get data from. And here you select Norway. The student selects Norway and will be redirected to Norway. And in Norway, we have a national contact point called the Vitnemålsportalen. It's a diploma registry service. And here the student have to log on one more time with the Norwegian logon system. And when this student log on in Norway, the system will obtain data from the different university where this student have studied. And this student has studied at the University of Oslo. And here is the results for this student. And you see that you can also, the course names for this course is links. So you can get additional information if you push those buttons. And before leaving this page, you get a view of what is now about to be sent back to Finland. And here you can transfer the records and you will be redirected back to Finland. And here is the same data back in the Finnish EMREX client. It's the same data, but it's presented in another way. And the student can import these data into the Finnish student information system at University of Helsinki. We are exchanging data here, but in addition, we also add a PDF, which looks like a transcript of record, and that is also digitally signed. So if your EMREX client is not mature enough to handle the data, that can at least use the PDF. So why do we have EMREX? EMREX is to enable the digitalization of any process in need of assessment data, in need of result data from education. And EMREX includes comparable data, and the maturity of the format and standards are quite high. When you are trying to digitalize processes, digitalize data, you start with an image of a transcript, maybe a PDF. But what we really need is data, and we need data on standardized format, and we need standardized data on standardized format, so that the receiver can understand your data. And it's a trustable network, and is GDPR compliant. The student or former student is in charge of the exchange of data, and is actually doing the exchange. Nothing happens without the involvement of the student. There are some example of processes where we use EMREX today. It's recognition of foreign studies. And part of that is also individual study plans. That's also part of the recognition process. We have joint degrees. So two universities have a cooperation on the same degree, so the student study both places. We are building, the student can build qualification based on results from different universities. We are doing EMREX as part of the admission process, so the student can give the admission process access to research data. And we are also using this for recruitment. So there are a number of recruitment systems out there connected to EMREX, so they can get the data in a trustworthy way. a short example for recognition. When we have a EMREX client in the student information system, the student can deliver data to this system in structural data. These imported results are recognized and added to the student's individual study plan. And as the student finished the study, the data will end up as part of the diploma. And so the first step is that ELMO data on the left here will be imported into a student information system in a structural way into the database. And when the student finish the study, it will be part of the diploma. So in this example from the University of Oslo, there are a number of results from the Stockholm University. And this has been imported by the students, delivered by the students from Stockholm University, and nobody at the University of Oslo had to register this all over again.
Is this gear a Kutatel or dual, I guess it's undergrad, so it's not, but a dual program, or are they coding the Stockholm University data on the Oslo transcript, and this is how they're depicting the transfer credit?
Yes. So the data from Stockholm University will be imported by the student into the system at the University of Oslo. And when the student gets his diploma, that will be part of the diploma.
And are those course codes on the far left Stockholm course codes, or are they Oslo course codes?
It's the Stockholm course codes.
Okay.
So if the student have a transcript from Stockholm as well, the receiver will recognize that.
Interesting, and that's all automated.
Yes, so nobody have to register this all over again. And of course, the quality of the data becomes better.
And the course-to-course equivalency between the Oslo course and the Stockholm course, was that determined previously?
That depends on the recognition process.
Okay.
If you know this course from before, that can be automated. If you don't, you have to do a manual process on that.
Okay.
But it's the same data we are talking about. Another example is admission. So part of our admission system is connected to EMREX. So here is a student applying for study at University of Oslo and deliver data from University of Tampere in Finland. And it's the same kind of data, but this is used in the admission process. And this is standardized data. So in this instance, it's a master degrees. You're applying for a master. And based on this data from Tampere, you can check if this is a bachelor degree. In this case, it says no. In this case, it's a yes. So you can partly automate the process for the admission based on the standardized data, because we trust the data from Finland in this network. And we can use this data directly into the admission process to find if they are qualified or rank the students based on their grades.
Before you leave this section here, is there any question, because it's a lot of really powerful information, maybe we should is it okay if we do a small check-in with our chat group to see if there's any questions?
Yes, certainly.
Yeah, one question we have is the transfer course GPA calculated? Is it included in the total GPA? Anna Takina is curious how that is factoring in.
So that's back to your recognition example, Gear.
I'm not sure what the GPA is.
Could you take us back to that example and how it's featured on the transcript?
This?
Yeah,
Yes.
I see that they've pulled into the database the equivalent ECTS credit.
Yeah, that's correct.
And I see in the grade section it says recognized, so I'm not seeing the grade ported over.
No, we in Norway we don't do that. So for foreign courses, we only put in recognized. But some countries actually do a grade conversion, and we have a standard way of doing that as well. But of course, that is sometimes very problematic to do. But
Yeah.
in Norway, we don't do that. But we get the grades as part of the data exchange in EMREX if you want to use that.
And that's why you have admissions using those grade results that come through.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there any other questions, Matt?
Yes. So another question is regarding the automation. Is there a way to configure it such that there has to be a manual check required before the final for the final step before the course credit appears on the transcript at the home institution, or is it just student driven and then completely automated after the student has initiated the process?
For foreign studies, everything will be checked today. So you get a proposal for recognition, but everything is checked manually today. For data between Norwegian universities, on the other hand, a lot of them are handled automatically, but of course we know our studies a bit better there.
So for just to restate to make sure I'm following what you said, for this particular recognition example, if it is from an institution within Norway and the student is going to another institution in Norway, then you've standardized things and have trust in it. That's that you have automation built in and it automatically goes on the student's transcript. But if it's from a place outside Norway, then there's a conversation, a workflow, etc.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Like I say that from upper secondary schools, for instance, the admission to higher education, about 70% is automated, and the rest has to, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there any more questions, Matt?
Not at this time.
Okay, our apologies, Geir. We're going to keep interrupting you only because it's so fascinating.
No problem. Yeah, as I told you, this has been a project. It has been a 3 years project. It ended in December last year, and now it is in ordinary production. And we are now building up the organization for putting this forward. In January this year, we formed what we call the EMREX user group. And it's formed to maintain, develop, and support the EMREX solution. It now includes all the previous partners from the project. And we also have got in the Netherlands, which has connected with their national contact point. And we had the first annual assembly in Paris in 17th of April before the Groningen Declaration network meeting. Yes. So our vision for EMREX is to enable the digitalization of any process in need of assessment data before, during, and after studies. And this goes beyond Erasmus plus mobility. So we have student mobility programs, cooperative arrangement like joint degrees, as I told you, admission, recruitment, credential evaluation, and also authorization.
Kier, what does authorization mean in this context?
Yeah, if you have, for instance, finished a degree in nursing, you have to get the authorization before becoming a nurse. So in Norway, that's another body, for instance, and that's normally in Europe at least.
So you've connected this system to regulatory bodies outside the institutions?
Yes, so this can deliver data to those authorization body, and part of that has now been automized. So nobody has to check this manually if everything is okay. But we also are working on getting the authorization into the network, so the result of the authorization, so that the student can, or the former student can deliver this to an employer. So as of today, we have these countries as part of the network. It's the 4 Nordic countries, Poland, Italy, and the Netherlands.
Gear, when you say HEI, do you mean all universities and all 2-year institutions and colleges?
Yes, that's correct.
So, okay, and are they all publicly funded institutions, or do you have private institutions involved?
We also have private institutions involved in this.
And are these all official or recognized, accredited institutions in this network?
Yes, either accredited as an institution or their programs are accredited.
Okay, so there's like a quality check before you invite people into the network.
Yes, there is. We are discussing how to do this in the future because we want to connect this network to a network of the bodies doing this accreditation, so that we can get that information in as part of the stream of data. That is a future thing. So the objectives for the user group, EMREX user group, is to, of course, to maintain the EMREX network, support the uptake of EMREX, include new countries, new services, and we are doing a lot of dissemination activities around EMREX. And also maintaining the EMREX policy agreement to be signed by all full members. So to become a full member, you have to deliver a national contact point, deliver data to this network. And there are a policy around that. And we're also contributing to standardization work, like the ELMO format. The ELMO format is also used in other networks, and we are trying to promote that. We have an executive committee, a chair, vice chair, and 3 to 6 members. And both full members and associate members can be eligible for this committee. So we have a number of associated members part of this, and PESC is one of them. Yes, so we have the full members and associated members. Full members have a national contact point. They are delivering data to the network, and anybody can be associated members. They are interested in be part of this network and be part of the standardization. So the plan for this year, we are building the organization. We're working on the information material, expanding the network, and doing the standardization on ELMO. So this year, the NELAs have come into production. in addition to delivering data from higher education, they are also delivering data from all the upper secondary school in Netherlands. And now also Croatia is in test with their NCP and will soon go into production. CHESIC in China has now started their development, and the feedback from them is that they will be ready this autumn and connect all higher education in China to the EMREX network. The last one is Sigma. They are also ready. It's an organization in Spain delivering student information systems. Yeah. There's a company called Digitary. They are, among other things, delivering the My Equals portal to Australia and New Zealand. And they have now also started their data standardization to enable themselves to connect to EMREX.
Digitary is the platform for Australia and New Zealand's My Equals Hub. Your voice cut out there a little bit, Geir. They are, some of my colleagues on the line are aware of that platform, so I wanted to mention it.
Yeah. The last thing is ELMO, which is a standard. We are now adding diploma supplements as data to the ELMO standard. You know, in Europe, we have a standardized document for diploma supplements. It's a document you get together with your diploma. And all the data in there, we are now adding to the ELMO format. So we can use it in a digitalized process again. And this ELMO standard is open. You can find it on GitHub. And we are also working on adding results of recognition to ELMO so that the enigmatic organization can deliver data in a digitalized way to the EMREX network. Yes, I think I will stop there.
We have, I suspect, a lot of people with a lot of questions. And so I think, if it's okay with you, Geir, I'm going to suggest that you go back to maybe the transfer example, and we can ask my colleagues, Matt perhaps, or people if they want to turn off on their audio. Are there any questions related to the transfer for recognition or comments?
Yeah. So we do have a couple questions. One of the questions with transfer, Ramesh wanted to know, how are the course equivalencies handled? Are they handled locally as implicated in the transfer credit process, or are they handled via the system in a more central manner?
So that's
Yes.
that's your course-to-course recognition process, Geir.
Yeah. In Norway, we have standardized some of this. So some of this is fixed across universities, but most of this is handled locally. We are trying to build up, for instance, in Norway, we are trying to build up a database of recognition so that we can experience, do experience based on recognition done on other universities. But that's a future matter. So what we actually are trying to do is get in the data we believe is necessary for enable systems in the future to do this in an automatic way.
So Geir, just to clarify, so in Norway, because I know you just launched in Norway with a position statement as a country where you said, we will accept this degree from this institution as being equivalent to that degree in another institution, for example. And so if I heard you correctly, you're looking to create a national course equivalency database, which you then can leverage in the EMREX model to do even further automation beyond the institution-to-institution example you showed us, right?
Yeah, I think that is correct. So we are trying to gather data so that we can automate some of these processes in the future.
Okay.
So hopefully we are collecting the right data.
So the example recognition transcript you provided, it just so happens that the University of Stockholm and the University of Oslo have figured that out at a course-to-course level, such that the student can actually load it in to their record from one institution to another without a human being getting involved.
Yeah, that's correct.
Is there other transfer-related comments or questions, Matt?
No, not transfer related, not at this time.
And was
There are other questions.
What would be an example of another question?
Rob Adamowski asks, can you provide any more detail on how students can share credential information with employers, or what is planned in this respect?
Yes, we are actually doing it already. There are a number of so-called recruitment systems, that is platform used by employers, where applicants can apply for work. And at these platforms, some of these providers have connected EMREX to the platform. So when you apply for a job, you can, as part of that process, also connect to EMREX and deliver data to this employer. And it's the same data we will get for an admission process or a recognition process. So what we are trying to do is deliver standardized data, like ECTS credits we have in Europe, like ISCED codes from UNESCO, and also descriptions in different languages. And we try to get in, of course, this has been standardized in English. So most partners in EMREX will both deliver data in English and in their local language.
So if the EMREX system doesn't, correct me if I'm wrong here, the EMREX system does not change the content. It's the local owner of the data that might have it in English, right?
That's correct. Yes, you get the data they deliver.
And the NCP that you have on the diagram in front of us, that's your national contact point. That's a national server, or it could even be an institutional server, or it could be some other network server. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So in the 4 Nordic countries, they are all national. In Poland, this will be local to one university. So when you get redirected to Poland, you also have to tell the system which university you have data from.
So there's a lot of work that has to happen regionally to get in a place where you have that national point, or even if you're an institution, there's some work they have to do so that they can connect to the EMREX network, right?
Yeah, there are some work, or all the work is local to one country. For instance, in Norway, we don't have a national database with results. So when you log into the diploma registry in Norway, it collects data from the different sources when you log in. And when you are out of the system, all the data will be gone.
So the data has to be moves from the local network server to the national contact point, i.e. server, to whichever client it's trying to get to in the EMREX system, right?
Yeah, that's the Norwegian model. In Finland, they have a national depository of all results. So they collect their data from that. So it depends on your infrastructure you have in your country already. So.
Are there other questions, Matt, from the group?
Yeah, another question we have is whether the planned exchanges with Chesic and Sigma will be implementing both directions, or if it will be only sending or receiving with the existing EMREX network.
For both of them, they will at least deliver data to the network. Chesic is actually a provider of data. They are also cooperating with CDCSC, which is the ENIC organization in China. And they are looking into getting data from the network. But they may do that using Chesic, or they will do it themselves. We don't know yet.
So just to clarify for our community, not everybody may know on the call what the acronym is that you described. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if it's a member of the ENIC system, does that mean it's the official center in China for evaluating inbound foreign credentials of students that are coming to China to study?
That's correct, yes.
So doing credit equivalency assessments, et cetera.
Yeah.
Do they also do I know that Chesic does some of this, but I think they also do outbound. So if somebody's coming from a Chinese institution, that other organization will provide interpretations, equivalency interpretations for outbound?
I'm actually not sure, but
Okay.
they have a third body in China, and nobody outside China understands how this works actually. So they almost do the same as Chesic.
Right. Is there one of the things that Matt, are there any more questions before I ask my question?
No, not at this time.
For the student, you showed us a portal example of what the student sees. So they have to, according to your example, they have to log into some sort of EMREX view. And then they also have to log into a country or institution specific view to get at their results. Is that correct?
That's correct. You have two logons.
So that first logon, if you could show it on your screen, this one is, where is this? Is this the EMREX global login screen, or is this a particular country?
Yeah, it's a particular institution. We don't have a global logon. So this will be a logon to a client.
So a particular institution like the University of Oslo, for example.
Yes.
And they log into this, and what's the next login they have to log in to?
Yeah, that's so in this case you start in Finland. It could be an admission system, so you apply for admission at the University of Helsinki, and part of that process you want to deliver your data from University of Oslo. So first you have to log in at the University of Helsinki, start your application there, and as part of that process you also have to log in Norway at the diploma registry to get your data back to the admission system in Finland.
And so for the benefit of colleagues on the line who may not know this, he's talking about the Central Diploma Repository System, which is the official arm, correct me if I'm wrong here, the official arm for all the Norwegian institutes where they have to send a student's credential results, right?
Yeah, well, almost right. Actually, when you log into this system, the system will collect data from the university. So nobody sends data to the system. So
they actually reach back and grab it.
Yeah, in true time.
So is this why it's considered a network model as opposed to a hub and spoke? Because there's no central data storage?
Yeah, there is no central data storage here. Everything is local to a university or a country or a region.
And can an institution, say a change happens and they have to pull back data that a student has featured in other institutional transcripts, can they do that?
No, they can't do that.
So once it's passed, it's gone.
Yes. So it's like delivering data to a student, and then the student delivers it to somebody else.
And it's all the student that decides what's moving around in this network?
Yeah, that's correct.
So the institutions always wait for the student's permission?
Yes. So
And
it's
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so you know, we have this GDPR thing in Europe to enable the citizens control of their own data. So this is a very transparent process for the owner of the result. So they should also always know what is going on here.
Right.
So in this model, you are not allowed to send data from one organization to another organization
Without their permission.
Well, you can't do that in any way here. You log in and then you get your data, and then you can deliver it to a client.
And so the student views that we saw, all those various student views, they were specific to an institution or a national regional node of some kind, right?
Yes. So for the clients, we have some, you see on this picture, we have the student mobility plugin, the SMP. That is an open software containing all the functionality to connect to the network. But every visual component you have to build yourself. So the visual component for choosing country and showing up the results, you have to make it yourself because you want it to look like the rest of your client. If
So
you
it's
have
a completely local, customized design.
Yes.
For the student environment.
Yes. We provide some examples of implementation. Of course, you can use that, but most organizations want to build this so it's compliant to the rest of these clients.
Matt, is there any additional questions coming in?
No, not at this time.
I see something popped up.
No, that was just Ramesh signing off. He had to run.
I see, Rob, there's something there from Rob. Rob, did you want to pop in and just be your own voice on this one?
Sure. I mean, I was just having a chat about how we might understand this system. I think my understanding is that this is really fundamentally student mediated, right? It's not really about students granting permission for institutions to move data. They have to actually initiate that movement, right?
That's correct. And they do it as part of a process.
And do they get charged any fees for any of this?
No, there are no fees for the student. In the Netherlands, they are discussing to charge fees from the employers, like clients, which are recruitment systems. But they don't want to charge fees from universities or governmental bodies.
So in other words, a future employer or like a organization that does credential assessment for employment, the idea is to charge them for the right to be part of the system.
Yeah, in the Netherlands, yes. We won't do that in Norway, for instance. We have another financing model of the diploma registry.
So the system allows for different models to be set up depending on local policy and context.
That's correct.
And would you say that The only other system that might potentially be similar to what you have here across the world looks like it might be the Ed Exchange concept.
Maybe in Ed Exchange, I think you are pushing data in some way. The student accepts that the university can send data to somebody else, if I understand it correct.
Right. It's like the phone book model concept.
Yeah, in this model, this is the equivalent of getting a paper transcript and send it to somebody else. So you are things are happening in true time when you are using these systems.
I have one more question, but before I ask, is there anybody else have a particular question? Matt, is there anything on the chat?
Nope, not at this time.
Okay. For something like this, what's involved for an institution or a centralized entity to get set up and participate in it?
Well, for getting data from the network, you actually don't have to ask anybody. You can go into the EMREX web pages and get look at the technicalities to do this. And they already have employers which have done that. So we get questions in this network from clients we have never heard about before they were up and running.
Wow.
So it's open.
Okay.
But to become a national contact point, you have to apply for doing that. So because that's the trust in the network is in this registry and in which NCPs we allow into this network.
And you obviously have on your site the requirements, the request forms, and everything for that.
Well, at the moment we don't have that, but we are working on that side.
Okay.
So if Canada is want to try this, we will be really happy to try to help you out with this.
Thank you so much, Kier.
So, I know you have some projects for exchanging data across Canada. So if you want to have a look on what we are doing, and we will certainly do some workshops for how this can be done.
Interesting. You're so generous, Kier, and also very generous with your time. We're actually at our time that we had set up for you. I have to say that the work you're doing is so interesting. I find myself with a few more questions, but I can always ask them offside, like time it took, etc. But please let me say on behalf of our community, thank you so much, Kier. And I've seen this presentation a few times, and it helps actually, because the more I see it, the more I understand its breadth and depth. So with further ado, I just want to do some reminders. If I could have the share screen. I'm going to share my screen now, if that's possible, Kier, just for a quick moment. I want to remind everybody that we do have coming on July the 5th, we have another session. It's called Erasmus Without Papers with Valère Muse, which is a study abroad model. And I encourage people to join that session. And we, as I've said previously, we will be setting up some more business requirement sessions to augment the sessions that we've had in the months of May and June, both virtually and at our recent conference. In addition, for our BCCAT and ONCAT funded sister projects, we are collaborating and will send out a survey that I will be asking colleagues to complete. It will go out primarily via the registrarial listservs, but I'm also going to send it to colleagues that have signed up for these various sessions because more than one response per institution is welcome. These are critical things to help with various research projects as we work to better understand and clarify what's going on across Canada, as well as learn about what's happening around the world. So Geir, without further ado, thank you so much for sharing with us today. You're doing some amazing work.
Thank you for letting me be part of your webinar today.
Yes, and I will be in touch, Geir. Take care, everyone, and have a great day.